Good morning and welcome to Swahili Sunday. If you are watching after the fact, thank you so much for watching. And first, I wanted to wish everyone in the U.S. a happy 4th of July. 4th of July is celebrating Independence Day, and I think that there will be fireworks shows. We didn't get to have any last year because of COVID. All that was canceled, and they've been advertising that there are fireworks shows around at least the area that I'm living in. And for people not to be setting off their own fireworks, which I'm sure people are still going to do. There was a house in South Los Angeles that had a whole bunch of explosives, and they actually found it, they being the police. Somebody, I think, reported it, and they were transporting them out and putting them in this vehicle that was something that was set up to be able to detonate large amounts of explosives, and it blew the truck up and blew a lot of stuff up in the neighborhood. So there are a lot of powerful fireworks out there. Just be careful, be safe, and enjoy the day if you celebrate the 4th of July. I remember being stationed in the UK, which 4th of July is celebrating our independence from the UK. And we would have a big 4th of July fair. They would have carnival with rides and games, and then a big fireworks show at the end. And we'd open up the base at RAF Feltwell, which was a detachment to RAF Lakenheath, where the contracting office was on RAF Feltwell. So that's where the 4th of July show was. And because of the summertime in the UK, and you'd have to wait until about 10 p.m. or so to set off fireworks because it would still be light out because of where the UK is up in the hemisphere. So that was kind of interesting. And we just would celebrate. And then some security things happened one year, and we had to close the base and not allow outside people that were civilians to come in, which was unfortunate. But it was a great time because families would get together and celebrate, and we'd sit there and watch a fireworks show, and it was a great time. I don't know if I'll be doing that today. I'm by myself, and I don't have a plan to go watch any fireworks. I may just listen to them from here at my house. But I am going to be at Fairtrade Long Beach today, finishing up my space. I've been working on it the last 3 days. If you are local to Long Beach, stop on by. We're open from 11 to 4, and I'll probably be up there between 11 and 12 and finishing up my space. I'm adding the doggy bandanas today, and if you haven't seen the doggy bandanas, you have to go to basketsandbeadskenya.com and look on the website. I've put some of them up. Our dog Gracie is actually my son's dog, but our dog. She's here with me, and she's over there asleep. I was going to have her model a bandana while I was on the show, but she's sacked out. She played yesterday with her new friend Valor, and they ran and ran and ran and did the thing that dogs do, and she's pretty worn out, which is good because she's got a lot of energy. Anyway, check out basketsandbeadskenya.com for that, and also come by Fairtrade Long Beach if you're in the area. If you're out and about, not doing anything, stop by, support small business. That's an important thing right now, especially as things are opening back up, is to support small business. There's a lot of small businesses that went under. Some of my wholesale customers went under during COVID, and they're not going to come back. And unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of small businesses. So supporting small is something that everyone is encouraging. We have 25 partners at Fairtrade Long Beach. You're shopping fair trade and supporting small business, and you're supporting a lot of woman-owned or minority-owned businesses as well. So if you're local to Long Beach, stop by. I'll be there. Come say, hey, we can go grab a tea and kick it and catch up. I'd love to catch up with you. Well, what is the Swahili word for today? I have 2 words. Adimisha means celebrate. So 4th of July, we're celebrating, and sherehe is celebration. So whether you're just the celebrate word or celebration, 4th of July is usually a time for people to get together and celebrate. And with the opening up of things and the reduced restrictions for COVID, a lot of families are traveling. The traffic around Los Angeles and Southern California was absolutely horrendous. I didn't go anywhere. because I heard and watched you could see the map for Los Angeles and surrounding area, and everything was red on the freeway. So I didn't travel anywhere for the 4th of July, but it is still a time to celebrate. And tomorrow is a off holiday for many people, including myself. So go and celebrate something. I'm not going to be going to any events or whatever. I may go by the American Legion if they have space over there. I'm a member of Post 291. Hey, Brother Kevin. Yeah, RAF Lake and Heath, crazy fireworks show. That's right. It was great. It was great to have your own private fireworks show. Anyway, happy 4th to you too, brother. Glad that you're kicking it over there. It was good to see you and all the veterans on Wednesday that came out. Anyway, so what I wanted to share a little bit today. Well, let me continue for a minute on the shopping small. Many of us in fair trade, we do our fair trade business, and many of us have little grassroots businesses. We're working to build to more sustainability for ourselves and our artisans. My goal is to get the ladies sustainable again. Unfortunately, if you listened to me last week, in Kenya, 2 days after I left, they basically closed down parts of the country. There were places where the cases in those certain areas were increasing, and one of the areas was where the ladies are. And unfortunately, the curfew has been increased to start at 7 p.m. and go through 4 a.m. It was 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. And it is still that way, I think, in Nairobi and a couple other areas. But where the ladies are, they can't gather. Thankfully, I went when I did, or I wouldn't have been able to gather. So we can't gather, can't do any selling in street markets, can't go to church. There's even some restrictions on funerals. And it's gone backwards. And that means that the ladies are able to go and sell on the streets. And many of them would walk around and they'd carry some beads, and they'd just walk around like this with the beads in their hand to sell them. Or they'd set up a little, like on the street market, they'd just set up a little blanket with their products and sell their products to people walking by. That's not happening now as a result of the restrictions increasing once again. So when you're supporting those of us in fair trade, many of us, there are some that are actually in sustainability. I'm not to that point yet for the business myself, which is why I work a job, and many of us do. So when you're supporting us, you're supporting a small business. There's many of us that go out and they work a job all day, and then they work their business at night and on the weekends. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what many are doing. Obviously, the speaking industry went way down because of COVID, and I wasn't able to, there were no in-person speaking events, so I wasn't able to sustain myself with much speaking. I did have a lot of online presentations, but I ended up taking a job to make sure that the business expenses were covered. And while we've done very well throughout, people have supported us at Fair Trade Long Beach, that it's not been obviously what it was before COVID. So if you think about purchasing a gift for somebody, think of a fair trade business, whether it's Baskets of Beads Kenya. I would love for you to be supportive of the ladies, or whether it's another fair trade business. I've seen a meme go around that says Amazon doesn't need you, small business does. And if you buy directly from a small business versus from somebody who's hosting their things on other sites, I don't host my things. There's one site I'm considering, but I don't host my things on other sites. I have a Shopify store because they all take a percentage, or they charge you a fee to be on their site. Yes, you may get more eyes on your products. And I'm looking at one site now to determine whether or not that's reasonable, because they take a pretty hefty percentage. So if your margin isn't much and you're on a site like that, then your margin is even less, which makes it difficult to sustain the business and to pay the business expenses. So when you think about when you're going to purchase a gift for somebody, think about purchasing from a small business, from a veteran owned, a woman owned, a minority owned business that you could be able to support not only the business owner who's doing the business, but also artisans, whether it's artisans in the US or artisans in another country. I happen to be working with both artisans in Kenya, and then I have some veteran-owned businesses here in the US that I have their products in my store at space at Fairtrade Long Beach. And I'm looking and hoping to expand that to help more veterans as well. Because for those of us, anybody who was a veteran and served any amount of time while everybody else was out kind of building their career or whatever, those of us who served, when you get out of the military, it's sort of starting over because you have to build a new foundation. So I just encourage you to support small, support fair trade, and shop small. And again, if you're in local, if it's not today and you're local, stop by Fairtrade Long Beach and check it out. It's a great place to go to find a gift for anybody, including yourself. One of the other things I wanted to share about today was one of the phrases I came up with some time ago is, don't get your facts from the court of media or social media. Oftentimes people will believe 100% what the media says. And one of the Think Like a Negotiator strategies in my book that's right there with the dark hair is verify the facts. And I've talked about this often enough that maybe you've heard it before, but I think it's important to reiterate because we get so much stuff thrown at us. And I don't watch the news. I'm bombarded. If you have this, and of course I have to be on social media for my business, so you can't help but see posts and comments and things. And there are people out there who have their opinions and they express them, and that's fine. But you don't want to believe those opinions without first verifying that what they're sharing is factual, because oftentimes it's not factual, or it's sensationalized, or it's stretched to fit a certain narrative that they want to get across. So you want to make sure that you use wisdom and you gain wisdom and verify what information is being presented to you. There's a few scriptures in Proverbs that I wanted to share. Proverbs 18:2-3 said, fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. Doing wrong leads to disgrace, and scandalous behavior brings contempt. Oftentimes you'll see people sharing, and I have my sign up here, be kind. And sometimes people frustrate me. Something happened at work where somebody was really disparaging to me. I was a little headstrong. You always have to look at, okay, what did you do that may have prompted this? Not that the behavior is excusable, but you always have to take responsibility for your side of the street and get some wisdom before you air your opinion. And so I looked at my side of the street and thought, okay, maybe I could have said this a little different, but that didn't give that person permission to be disparaging, snarky, and putting me down. That's never the thing to do. And that seems to be happening more and more. A friend of mine shared with me, and I haven't come across it, but she had read an article that kind of stuff is happening more and more in the workplace, where people are putting each other down, disparaging each other, attacking each other. And I don't know if it's got something to do with COVID or because people are frustrated or what, but there's another proverb that's at 24:14. It says, know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, there will be a future and your hope will not be cut off. Getting wisdom, then Proverbs 16:16 said, how much better to get wisdom than gold? To get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. What all that just basically says is take the time to research the information you get, because there's a lot of false information. And I'm not talking political, because obviously both sides of the aisle or whatever, but there's a lot of information that's put out there that's fake, that's false, and people are buying it based on other people's opinions. So somebody will put up a bunch of opinions about something, and then there'll be a bunch of comments or whatever. And without knowing the whole story, you can't really make a reasonable decision or determination without doing some investigation and making sure that there's facts. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go be like a scholar or whatever, but if somebody's presenting something, an idea to you, and you see it out there on social media or in the media, I don't know about you, but I've unsubscribed from a lot of things because I keep getting bombarded with headlines and this and that. I don't pay attention to a lot of that, and if I hear about something, I may go research it, listen to what different sources are saying, and then if there's something that has some factual information in there, I need to go research and make sure that it is factual before I decide to agree with it. I use this in Verify the Facts, an example that a friend of mine told me a very, very long time ago. There was a guy who somebody told him his wife was cheating on him with this other guy. And instead of the guy doing some work to verify if that was actually factual, whether it's asking the wife or getting a private investigator or doing some research into maybe her social media or whatever the case may be, instead of doing that thing to verify if that was factual or if there was any basis in fact or truth on that, he went and beat the guy up. And what it turned out after they investigated, because the guy ended up going to jail for beating the guy up, that it wasn't true at all. That person had some incorrect information and presented it to him, and he reacted on it. And that's an extreme case, but I'm sure you, like me, have reacted to things that we hear without verifying that they're actually factual and detailed. So you want to take the time to really look at, especially if something's getting you upset, okay, what is this factual or is this not factual? Or you're going to make a decision about something. I don't know how you guys make your decisions. Sometimes I do a pros and cons list. Okay, here's a decision. For instance, I was recently approached about a possible job in Austin, Texas. Now, I'm from Texas. I grew up in San Antonio, born in Dallas, and go Cowboys. And I lived in Austin for 9 years. My kids were born at South Austin Medical Center in Austin. And it sounded like a great job, but I had to think for myself, okay, I need to do some due diligence for myself. And for me, I take everything to prayer and see how I feel about it in my spirit. And I didn't feel like it was a move I needed to make. But if I were going to actually think about going for a job somewhere else, I'd need to do some research on the cost of living. How easy is it to get housing? What's the traffic like? What's the cost of living like? I know what the temperatures are like there, but what's the community like? Is there a place that I could really go and find a church home? I have friends there already, but those are some things that I would have to think about. I wouldn't simply make a move on a whim, like I'm going, whatever. Same thing when I decided to go to Kenya. I did some checking about the trip, what it was going to be, a little bit of information about Kenya and what it was like before I made a decision definitely to go. And I'm glad I made that decision because of what I'm doing now, helping the women in Kenya. But you have to take the time to do some research into any facts that are presented to you. And too often we are willing to get our facts from the court of media and social media and simply accept that as gospel and not go out and verify anything more factual. So it's important to look at the facts. And I always recommend doing a pros and cons list before you're going to make a decision. Many, many years ago, 2004, 2005, I had a really bad situation. The person that I was actually in a relationship with, had a business together. He kind of basically cut me out of the business and took all the funds and all that. We were selling Harley parts on eBay. He kind of took everything. And actually, that's a whole nother story. But I wanted to run. I wanted to get as far away from California as I could. I had a job offer in Virginia, and I had a job offer basically hired sight unseen. I was going to go out there for a job interview, but they were ready to hire me because of 2 referrals I had previously had. 2 people had referred me. This is who you need. You need to contact her. She'd be perfect for this. And it was kind of a cool position. But I did a pros and cons list. I actually went on my Harley chapter, did something called a mad dog ride, I think is what it was called, 500 miles in a day. And it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so it was kind of cold. And we went up into a little bit into higher altitude. And I rode all day thinking about it, praying about it, thinking about it. And then when I got home, I took out a piece of paper and I wrote a pros and cons list. Pros, cons. The pros were all about me. The cons were all about my kids. So I made a choice based on all of that not to move. But I didn't just jump and I had agreed, okay, I'll come out there. But then I canceled the interview because I had done my due diligence and decided, okay, this is not a good move for me. So pros and cons list makes a really good decision maker for you. If you write it down, you can actually see it. Sometimes you could do it on a whiteboard or do it on a big flip chart paper and then step back and look at it. And like I said, I take everything to prayer. And if it doesn't feel right in my spirit, it's not something that I should do. And make a decision that way instead of jumping at a decision. Oh, that sounds great. I'm going to go do that. And I'm not saying I've never done that in the past, because I have. And usually those decisions end up wrong, or the thing falls apart, or it turns out to be a bad decision because I made a quick decision based on oh, this is great. This looks good. Actually made a decision like that to do some business with somebody based on our first interaction and the commonality. And it turned out to be a very bad situation that, had I taken the time to do some due diligence on the person, I would have found out the behaviors with other people. And then I could have saved myself. As it turned out, it was about 3 months, but had an anxiety attack over it that ended me up in the hospital. Had I done some better due diligence on the person before I got into business, into the little bit of business we were doing, that probably would not have happened. So it's important to do your due diligence and ask some questions and get some facts and some data. Anyway, that is about all I'm going to share for today. I'm getting ready to head up to Fairtrade Long Beach in a little bit. And if you're in the area, stop on by. We'll go have a tea. There's a great eco coffee shop, and they have these great they're superfoods, and they're little bites, and they're sugar-free, and they have a lot of nutrition packed in them. I love getting those. So we can go grab a tea and a superfood and kick back and catch up. So if you're in the area, love to see you. If not, stop by another time. Also, next Saturday, the 10th, is our second Saturday in Parkview Village. So if you are close to that area, plan to come by. We're there noon to 4. There's a DJ. There's going to be all kinds of vendors. Baskets and beads will be there. I have a big tent and a couple of chairs, so you can come and sit and hang out there too. We can kick back and have a tea as well, and you can do some shopping. So stop on by Parkview Village Shops next Saturday for second Saturday, and love to see you there. Or stop by today at Fairtrade Long Beach, or any other day. I'm not usually there most days. It's a good 20 miles or so from me. But Teresa, I call her Sync Commander-in-Chief, Fairtrade Long Beach, is always there to help people. So stop on by and check it out. One last thing that I do not want to forget to mention, because we are still raising money for the ladies. Now that they've shut back down again, we're going to have to continue to provide for food packs. Thank you for those of you who have donated and continue to donate. This is something that we're going to do until they get to a point where they can be sustainable again. Tourism has taken a huge hit. People aren't traveling through, and now with the markets being shut down again, they have very limited ability to sell. So basketsofbeadskenya.org, it's tax deductible for food packs. We'll be providing those again soon this month. When was I there? It's been, yeah, it'll be another couple of weeks, and I'll be providing another round of food packs for them. And we are also taking donations to help get their children, make sure their children are able to go to school, help pay the school fees and the school supplies. Again, just helping them to ensure that their children have education. So if you want to donate, appreciate it. Thank you to all who have donated. And with that, I will wrap this edition of Swahili Sunday up. Get ready to head up to Fair Trade Long Beach, and I will see you all soon. Happy 4th of July. Nakupenda.